British Columbia has canceled all tsunami advisories in the coastal regions. They were put in place last night after an 8.8 magnitude earthquake shook Russia. It triggered tsunami warnings from Hawaii to Japan. Advisories remain in effect for parts of California. Chile has upgraded its tsunami warning for most of its Pacific coast to the highest level. For more on this, let's bring in Brent Ward. He's the co-director of the Center for Natural Hazards Research at Simon Fraser University. He joins us today from Hornby Island, British Columbia. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Hillary.
Let's start with some of those tsunami advisories that had been in place for BC's coast. Like we say, they have now, thankfully, been canceled. Does this mean, though, that the threat is fully behind us, or do you think that people on the coast should still be on alert?
No, everything should be fine now. The concern is we're never totally sure how big the waves are going to be. It really depends on kind of the configuration of the rupture of the seafloor, where the main energy is directed. And so at this point, enough time has passed that there will be no more waves.
Which is certainly good news for anyone living in those areas. Help us understand exactly, if you can kind of walk us through what happens when someone receives an alert that a tsunami is happening. What is the process to get those advisories out?
Well, it's part of an international system where there's a network that detects these very large earthquakes. And when one happens, they wonder if it's big enough to create a tsunami and if it's the right configuration to create a tsunami. And so at this point, soon after the earthquake, I mean, literally within minutes, the Pacific Tsunami Hazard System was activated, and warning went out to various countries, and then the countries themselves have to decide whether or not to send out a warning. And I know that, people were posting on Blue Sky that they got, a warning and were confused because they had not yet heard about the earthquake. So that's great. The system works.
Well, and if you can, help us sort of understand, in your view, how well all of that worked last night. How well did the communication work? Do you think that all of those systems that you're talking about that are supposed to be in place, do you think that they effectively alerted the public?
Well, I think they did. I mean, I haven't heard much about people not getting a notice. I think people were, kind of critical that, it's only 30 centimeter wave. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. But like I said, at the beginning of these events, we really don't know how big the waves are going to be. And so I think it worked well. I mean, we'll find out more later. It's always good to have a situation like this, which is a good news situation in that it was not a serious event for us here in BC, but it allows them to tweak the system and notice if there's any potential room for improvement.
What about the public then? If you're saying that those systems worked, it sounds like how they should, do you think that the public takes these warnings as seriously as they maybe should? Or would you like to see the public handle them a little bit differently?
We can always do more in terms of public education. I mean, the big concern is there'll be a certain percentage of the population that will go down to the beach to actually see the waves come in. And that is something we need to really just, stop people from doing. I haven't heard of people not, going down there to see the waves or to, not evacuate certain areas. It certainly is something that needs to be taken seriously, but we do worry about, a kind of a fatigue setting in. If there's a lot of warnings and nothing much happens, then when a real one happens, then it can be devastating.
Of course, there's always been lots of talk about what is sometimes referred to as the big one, this fear that there could be a massive earthquake one day on that west coast of North America, for example, and that it could potentially trigger a huge tsunami that could lead to huge amounts of damage. What is being done right now to try to make sure communities are prepared for if that were to happen?
Right. Well, again, it's all about public education because getting a notice at that point is not going to help you. The warning sign for a large tsunami is the intense ground shaking that would accompany that very large earthquake. And so even though you'll be confused and in shock, you need to move yourself to higher ground as quickly as possible. You probably have 20 to 30 minutes before the first waves start arriving, sometimes even sooner. So many of the coastal communities have maps, they have signage that direct people to places that are safe. And so what we need to do now is to make sure that some of these smaller communities that maybe don't have the resources of, say, a Tofino, Ucluelet, Victoria, to make sure that they have enough education and signage so that people know what to do when the ground shakes intensely.
Okay, some really good reminders there. Like we say, of course, we hope that is not something that people are going to be faced with, but good to be prepared just in case. For now, Brent, thank you for this. We appreciate your time today.
Well, thanks for having me, Hillary.
Brent Ward for us.